Did anyone else notice in the movie Back to the Future there is a major plot hole, and that is that Marty's parents do not remember that their own son helped them get together in high school. In 2020, Back to the Future screenwriter Bob Gale actually responded to fans' questions about this. By the end of the movie, we all know that Marty helps his parents get together. They know his name, they know a few things about him, and they even know that he hung around with Doc Brown. But when their son later on in the movie is born, they have no idea or recognize who he is, even though all these details are still the same. Bob Gale stated that they only knew Marty for about 8 days, and in those 8 days they only saw him for a few of them. They were only 17 years old at this time, and 30 years would have passed. Maybe they would have remembered that this interesting kid helped them get together, but they most likely not would have remembered much. And Gale even stated that if you're in your 40s and 50s and look back in your old high school yearbook, you probably would be able to find someone who looks similar to your son. Keep in mind that this was 1955, there was no videos or photos of Marty McFly in 1955 helping out his parents.
Did you know that Biff actually died in the movie Back to the Future Part 2 after going to the past and giving the almanac to his younger self? In this scene right here, if you look closely, you can see that Biff is actually shrieking and falling over after coming back from the past and getting out of the time machine. It is never really shown too much, but he falls over right here, and then it cuts back to Doc and Marty and never goes back to what happened to Biff. But a deleted scene actually reveals that Biff disappeared in 2015 because he actually died. Biff actually experienced the same fading out that Marty experienced at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance in the first movie. By going back to the past, Biff actually altered his own future by giving himself the sports almanac. According to script drafts, Biff was actually shot and killed by Marty's mom, Lorraine, in 1996. So, Biff actually going back to the past ruined his future life and made him disappear, and you can see when they leave that he disappears and fades out. Did you know in Back to the Future, Doc Brown's actor Christopher Lloyd is afraid of heights, so filming the clock tower scene was difficult. Lloyd was having a hard time with the idea of being that high in the air, even though he was in a harness. This forced the production to build a replica of the top of the clock tower on a soundstage that only reached as high as 8 feet. But Lloyd still struggled while filming the scenes, even at this lower height. This is why almost all the moments of Doc on the clock tower that clearly show Christopher Lloyd were filmed in close-ups or mediums, so they could hide they were no longer on the full-size clock tower. And although that building itself still stands on the Universal backlot, the smaller replica used for those moments was dismantled when filming was complete. So whenever you see Doc Brown scared of being on the clock tower, just know that the fear you see in Lloyd was entirely real.
We had a lot of fun making the movie, but it was a lot of work. And it took a long time because we reshot 6 weeks of it after they replaced Eric Stoltz with Michael Fox. So some of the scenes we had to shoot twice. And if you watch the big skateboard sequence with Biff in the 50s, it was they still used a lot of that sequence with Eric's double. That's why he's kind of taller and has dark hair. So kind of inexplicably, Michael's hair gets slicked back so that it matches the stunt double. So they only shot a few, I don't know, maybe a third of it they had to reshoot. And I remember I had to reshoot the whole scene where Marty wakes up in bed because I did it with Eric first and then had to redo it with Michael. And they wanted to use my close-ups with Eric, and I was like, no, it's a completely different experience with a different actor. You can't do that. They used some of my close-ups from the dinner scene with when Marty comes to dinner, and my hair changes a lot, so that's annoying. But they were under the gun, so they had to do what they had to do.
This part always cracks me up. This poor kid, during this take, has to go pee. So he's signaling to somebody off camera. He's struggling. Poor kid.